We've heard from some concerned parents who had kids in Holly Hill who've said, they go to see their kids and they've been medicated without their consent. I mean, were you aware that that was happening?
It's a fine line because, the parents, they consent to the treatment. When you consent to treatment, you're leaving it up to the medical professionals, to make those determinations. Then there's the separate part where, during an acute event that they're medicated and are supposed to be notified. And that notification takes place after it happens. So, but as she had said, there were times that because of staffing and miscommunication, just because of the generalized environment of disorder within the facility, those notifications either didn't happen in a timely manner or didn't happen at all.
Because if it's not documented, nursing school, if it's not documented, it wasn't done. And that again goes back to the documentation. They're just, parent notified, or I would try to go again. You have to write it down specifically. And sometimes you couldn't even read the writing.
What were some of the first red flags you noticed?
Documentation. Terrible. Because it's still on paper. Because when all the hospitals went to Epic, they left the psychiatric hospitals out. You could never get a chart supposed to tell a story, and you could never find the story. There were a lot of missing pieces, and so documentation and staff. I felt like all the staff was overwhelmed, and there is good staff there, but they're overwhelmed. And patient safety, I could do the bird's eye picture that this needs to be changed and this needs to be changed, and it wasn't really happening. And I would let the buck stop with me, whether it was family members calling, insurance companies. I didn't pass the buck, which I felt like a lot of times that's was happening. Nobody would actually stop and work on the problem, whether it was could be handled by managers or assistant directors of nursing or the director of nursing. It just kind of stopped, and it would fall to me because they needed to be corrected. I mean, patient safety is the utmost, and like I said, you have to err on the side of the patient, but a lot of times, well, they're here and they're crazy, what they're saying isn't true. And so they would discount that, and you still have to investigate.
Something that I've heard from a number of people is, the facilities being understaffed, or at least having the wrong staff in the wrong areas that aren't trained. Talk to me a little bit about what you experienced in that.
You had a lot of inexperienced people, and inexperienced people need more training. And you were giving the same amount of training to somebody with 20 years experience as you were to someone with 20 days experience. And because it was such a difficult place to work, you didn't really retain those frontline workers with a lot of experience that could pass knowledge along, do on-the-job training. And the environment, the acuity didn't provide for that. So it was just, kind of a runaway train, like things, it just compounded upon each other because, when you had the inexperienced people now training more inexperienced people, and you had the constant demand of, all these events and the acuity of these patients, they just couldn't maintain like a safe environment, in my opinion.
Can you describe to me, as far as what you know, and I know we talked about this, how the facility is set up to deal with escapes? And I believe it was you who said, it happens more than you know.
Right. And I remember that one that you're talking about. And any patient that's there, they have time and they think, and they don't want to be there, so they want to get out. But it's as easy as, and facilities are set up, the campuses are set up different. But as you talk, that patient just walked out. So we call that tailgating. A lot of times housekeeping, is pulling in the cart and somebody just can slip by, but then they're trapped because you need the badge to get in the elevator or go out the door. However, some people, and I don't want to give them ideas, but I told you, they pull the fire alarm, all locks are gone, and they can slip out. Sometimes the magnets, besides the lock, they're magnetic. You can hit it hard enough and it could be pushed open. In the adolescence, there is not, what do they call it? A alleyway in between. So, and they can run fast. Oh my gosh. Anyone who wants to get away can run fast. So if a staff member just, puts their keys down, even behind the counter, I've seen patients jump over and grab it. They're just waiting for that time. And then it's just hit and they can run. And, there is woods there. This is kind of, I think I told you that, one time I was driving into work and I was coming down, I even forget the road, and I saw one of the nurses running, and I was like, oh, she's jogging before she goes to work. And then I pulled into the parking lot and I see another staff member out there, and I said to myself, oh, I know what it is. I said, who did it? Who got lost? And they told me, and it's again, because the punch clock is right next to the door of children's, and if they're filing back in and the door opens, they can just run out. Again, they think and they have time on their hands, but again, process is you always notify the police, the guardian or parent or whatever, but you don't notify the media. And, that's how you were known. It's happened before, but if they didn't get off the campus and they were in sight, it wasn't considered. I still considered it elopement, but they told me it was found in an unauthorized area, how I had to classify it.
And was that a policy that Holly Hill put in place, that it's not considered an escape if they're found on the property, or is that coming from?
So those are regulatory interpretations, and as I've said, they're left vague, so left up to interpretation. So, individual facilities can interpret if they get called out on it. They, may or may not have to change how they assess things, but that's just the nature of the regulatory, that things are not really, in some instances are very specific, but in others, they're not. So, a lot of the abilities for the elopements happen because of regulations around fire safety and, life safety. So, like, if you pull the fire alarm, it opens all the locks, things like that. But in my opinion, a lot of the elopements occur, again, going back to lack of adequate or well-trained staff. Like, I know exactly where she's talking about, the punch clock. If you had staff, you would put a staff member in front of that door whenever you were filing patients in and out. But they don't have the adequate staff to put someone there to prevent that. That's, in my opinion, that's where, a lot of these occur.
Because they have a person at